And we are live. Good evening. Welcome to the GSFE Admins podcast, the podcast by and for GSFE Admins. My name is Lance Lennon. I'm the technology director for the Eagle Grove Community School District in Eagle Grove, Iowa, a nice little town in north central Iowa.
My name is Chad Frericks. I'm the director of technology for Adele DeSoto Minburn in central Iowa.
Hey, that's different than the last time.
It is different than the last time. You are correct, sir. I'm in my new position now.
Woo! My name is Carl Hare. I am still the Director of Technology at Ames Community Schools in Ames, Iowa. And welcome, Chad, to God's country of Central Iowa.
Anything below Highway 20 where it doesn't snow.
That's the permafrost line of Highway 20.
That's the cutoff. And Phil is not with us tonight. Phil has some stuff going on with his family. So like we always say, family first. But tonight's show, we're going to talk about some end of the year stuff, some new stuff coming out from Google. And you may have noticed, if you're paying attention, right here, we have a special, at least on my screen, it's right here. It might not be right there for everybody.
That was way off on mine.
Was it? Okay. All right. Well, hopefully mine's recording. We have a special guest tonight, and Robert, he'll be talking to us after a bit here. But we do want to start off with some of our new topics. One thing that I've actually came across, he's been posting in the GAF admins community, the GSFE admins community, for a long time. And I don't know how I missed it, but I finally just started reading his blog. Dave Carty. So Dave, if you are out there, again, you can at any point in time go ahead and join the conversation. We do have the chat available if you're here watching. So go ahead and feel free to add something in. You know, Dave Carty puts out a blog, and I do want to say this to you, Dave. Right now, I'm having issues with the HTTPS. I think you need to renew your certificate. But other than that, I go there anyway because I trust you. But he had some great posts on there. Two of them just this past month that I thought were great. One was about summer storage and battery life on your Chromebooks, and some great recommendations on that and what you really should think about when storing Chromebooks over the summer. As much as I don't want to be storing Chromebooks and collecting Chromebooks, we still are. So I'm going to take some advice from that one. And the second one is how to remove those profiles from the Chromebook over the summer. And that's the one I really wanted to touch on first. And a lot of us do that, you know, where we rotate our Chromebooks. So for most of our kids, it doesn't matter. You're going to give them the same Chromebook next year. That profile remains on that Chromebook. Boom, they got all their stuff when they come back next year. They don't have to download it all again. But if you have a Chromebook going from like a 12th grader to a 9th grader, 12th grader to a 5th grader, you're going to want to be wiping the profiles on that Chromebook. And you can go through and, yeah, sure, I can USB stick the thing, every single one of them, auto re-enroll them and do all that stuff and have to go through and physically touch everyone a lot. But he talks about in here 3 different ways to remove the profiles. And one way that you know kind of does a very good job of it, and we take for granted, is you basically go in and just put it in that specific OU with those Chromebooks, and you say delete user profiles on logout, start the machine up, wait a few minutes as it's up to make sure that it got the new policies, and then log out, and log back in, and or shut it down and start it back up, and it should have wiped and deleted the user profiles. I thought that was the easiest way. Get through those Chromebooks fairly quickly. Do any of you guys do anything like that, or do you do something different?
We just tell our kids to delete their profiles.
You can do that and hope that they do.
And then when they go to turn them in, when we look at them, if the profile's not there, we go over there, delete your profile from the machine, and take care of it that way. I think it's great. I mean, some of the stuff that was on there is great. I mean, I didn't mean for that to come off belittling those ideas. It's one of those things where we're 4 years into our Chromebook one-to-one at our middle school, so the kids kind of got this little process down. And the only ones we care about is our 8th graders, because our 6th and 7th graders get the same devices back. So we want the profiles to stay. So we get 90% of the kids get their profiles removed the way they're supposed to be for us, and then we don't have to worry about it too much.
And I guess I'm of the opinion, a little bit old school maybe, but if I'm going to give the device to a new person, I like to wipe it all the way out and USB stick it and get a fresh OS on there. That way I'm sure that the OS is clean, well, hopefully clean, no glitches. I mean, when you USB stick it, it does go through and check the SD card for errors and do all that stuff. So it's a little more in-depth maintenance, in my opinion, if you actually, wipe them and refresh them with the USB stick. instead of just removing the profiles. And my dog's trying to join the podcast here, so I apologize.
I thought that was Lance's stomach.
and Lance doesn't know it, but I'm the man in the middle between him and Dave Carty's blog.
You're the man.
You're taking all of our credentials.
Oh, great. Well, it's like I say, you can't get blood from a turnip. You can have my identity, but I guarantee you in a couple of days, you're going to give it back.
Once those college bills start coming in.
No, when I was a kid, you can't tell it now, as I'm fairly not coiffed anymore. Used to have flaming orange hair. Was a bright red head. Nobody else in the family had red hair, and I always asked my mom, was I adopted? Was I adopted? Finally, one time she said yes, but they brought you back. And I was like, that kind of hurt. Same type of thing with my identity. You aren't going to want it for long. So,
Chad, how long does that process take for you to go through and USB stick all those machines? I just can't. Doesn't seem to be worth it for me at 1,400 units. I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you have a staff for, Carl?
I got other things to do.
If you wipe them and put them back and have something like a GoBox Chrome, the process is much faster.
Sure.
Or even rubber duckies, it's just the re-enrollment stuff. But it takes time. But when you say 1,400, is that how many you have for one class? Because I would only rotate out one level. So like senior machines would be wiped and redone.
So you would have if your sixth graders come back as seventh graders, they would get the exact same machine. You wouldn't remove a profile or anything. You only do a grade level. Okay. Yeah. So for me, that would only be 400 machines or so. I mean, not a huge number.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's previously what I've done. I don't know what I'll do this summer. Really depends on what my workload is, because I'm putting in new wireless, putting in new cameras, putting in some new displays. So,
and
a full summer anyway.
ADM is different. They aren't one-to-one yet, so it's all fresh here.
So Chad's not doing anything this summer. He's gonna put his feet up.
He has to enroll all the new ones.
You guys know better.
Is your one-to-one going to be ready for the fall? Is that the plan, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you are going to be busy this summer.
We will be one-to-one day one in the fall.
So with Chad's new position, he gets to go through the whole process of kind of looking at, reviewing the network, the wireless network, the devices that are going to be purchased. He gets to start up another one-to-one, build his own filter. He's kind of taken the new job and gets to mold it back into the shape that he wants it in. So I'm a little jealous, because that's one of the things I actually really like to do. To what?
The poor souls of ADM get another Chad Frericks one-to-one.
It's kind of, he's going to do this every time. He's going to start one, move to the next one. Next thing you know.
In a couple of years, I'll just be the one-to-one guy nationwide. It's fun.
He like the bird flu. He'll be everywhere.
Everybody gets it. Not the swine flu?
I thought the bird flu was more recent.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Call me a pig.
I would never.
He would. So we have one viewer currently, and if you want to leave a comment or anything like that, tell one viewer. Hopefully we haven't lost him, gone off on the swine flu or the bird flu. Second thing that I wanted to talk about here in our beginning topics, new stuff, was the new UI, the user interface for the admin panel. All of us here, the three of us and Phil also, were in the original admin panel at one point in time on the Google Apps for Education, way back when it was,
ugly.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely not user friendly. But once you figured out how to get around it, not a problem. And they switched it to the old new user interface. And that one, again, you had to relearn where things were and how to quickly do things. I like the interface better personally. The old new one. And now they've done it again. And so I'm kind of one of those people that doesn't like change. I know. As a Google person, I don't like change. I don't like learning new stuff, and that's not true either. But I really like the user interface look. I don't like not knowing exactly where to go right away. Anybody else have any experiences with it?
You got to try to find the nested pieces, right? It's one of the trade-offs with your nested menus is what's nested under what. You got to find that. And then it might have been at the Midwest Google Summit this spring. somebody pointed out that you can't open up more than one window. So they would sometimes right-click, open in a new window, one of the bits, so they could have 2 windows of the admin panel up and running. You can't easily right-click on one of those links and say open in a new window anymore in the drop-downs. So that's a use case. We ran into issues, but for me, it's trying to find out where they hid the button, right? Button, who's got the button?
Yeah, I find myself where before I would know where to click. So I find myself using the search box up top a lot more to find exactly what I'm looking for right away, and probably more efficient in the end. But having known the other console so well, I could just click pretty fast. And now I have to like type letters and stuff to find where I want to go. But it does take you straight there usually.
I really do like, though, on the user interface, the left-hand side, when you can drop down and go right to users, add user, add, and being able to have those nested inside the pop-ups rather than having to wait for each window to pop up, then click the button, wait for the next one to pop up, click the button, next one. So I appreciated that personally.
The one-off user creation has gotten a lot nicer, too.
Hey.
To create one user, set their password, dump them into a group. It's all in one pane now, which is kind of nice. Still not super easy to do a bunch at once, but
it's all in one pane and not such a pain.
Yeah, there you go.
No, they have now they also did where you can import mass users and put them in the correct OU instead of having to be right at the root. You can actually put them in. I'm still waiting for them to be able to use a Google Sheet to import my users instead of having to use a CSV.
Pretty soon, Carl, we're not going to need GAM.
No, don't say that. Stop swearing.
Everything right in there.
There's still things GAM does that they don't use in the UI yet. So
yeah.
It's still an effective tool.
I think they should just partner with
Jay works for Google.
Jay. And
he works for Google.
Add a command line interface right in the console. You can just type GAM commands and make it do magic.
Ooh, I like that idea. Bring them together.
Huh? That would be cool.
It would be cool. Have a little terminal window in your command console?
Yes, like when you go to the dashboard, it has all the sections of the admin console. And then on the bottom where it says more crap or whatever it says way down at the bottom.
I think it's more options, but crap fits too.
Then just have a small command line where you can type GAM commands.
Except, hang on. You have to pass a test before they activate it for your OU, though.
You don't want people just typing command line stuff and hitting enter?
That might be a little bit of a bad idea.
Magic.
Excuse me, Google support. All my users are gone.
Control Z, right? Undo.
Format.
What the command is?
Oh.
So those are the two new topics I wanted to talk about tonight.
Awesome. So I got a handful, but some are pretty small. The one that I am by far the most excited about is the Google Tour Creator. Not to be confused with the Tour Builder tool. But the new Google Tour Creator came to us EDU users in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And what it allows us to be able to do is either take Google Street View pictures that already exist and create tours, or you can, if you have like a Ricoh Theta or another tool that allows you to take 360 images, or you might be using a pixel to take a sphere, and actually build virtual tours that you can view through a web interface or through Google Cardboard. And in my past life as a history teacher, one of the things that always bummed me out is here in Central Iowa, we don't have a lot of the cool history, right? A lot of the cool history happened not in the Midwest. And you can't just load up kids in Ames and say, hey, we're going to go to Gettysburg, or we're going to go to Michigan, or wherever we're going to go. You can't do that. And so virtual field trips was always intriguing to me. In fact, so much so my master's thesis was written on virtual field trips in history education. And so now the fact that you can take and with a single click of a 360 camera and a couple clicks through a web interface, build a virtual tour that back when I was in graduate school took forever, where you had to stitch together all the pictures and then use a tool like QuickTime VR. QuickTime VR was the only one that you could find to build what you can build now in a matter of clicks. So you have to turn it on for your domain. It's under the other apps or additional apps, and it's just called Tour Creator. So one thing to keep in mind is that because it's under the additional apps, it's not officially covered by the EULA that covers all of the G Suite core tools, but it's definitely worth checking out. It is dead simple to put together, and your kids can be doing some really, really cool stuff. I think we're going to leverage it for as we build our new high school to do some really cool stuff with the construction phase, and then an introduction to the new building when it rolls out. But I would like to see some of our other schools or other classes start using it to do virtual tours around the city. Because even within your city, sometimes it's hard to get away to see some of the cool stuff that you have available to you. So Google Tour Creator, I am super, super excited about to play with and get kids using. Have you guys played around with it at all or checked it out or seen anything?
So I looked at it. I was actually talking to Donnie Piercy. Texted me the other day or chatted me the other day and asked, he says, what are your thoughts on making it available? And I said, I haven't read the EULA yet. And as a matter of fact, I went in and looked and couldn't find the EULA for it. So I said, if it's not explicitly telling me they have to be 13 or older, I turned it on. So it is actually on for my kids. We haven't started playing with it yet. It's end of the year for us. And so I think teachers are kind of to the point now where they're winding down. The kids are ramping up for summer. But I'm excited about it. Matter of fact, I'm going to be doing a session at Tickle on the Tour Builder. But one question I have for you is, what's the difference then, or pardon me, I just said it. What's the difference between Tour Creator and Tour Builder?
Tour Builder is for Google Earth, where you basically map this path on the globe, and it was different points of interest, and those pictures are static single images or single video, YouTube video or something like that. It's not the immersive environment that the Tour Creator is, which to me is really, so this is going to be ironic. So I lived in Iowa my entire life, taught Iowa history, taught U.S. history, and I had never stepped foot into our Capitol building in Des Moines until earlier this year when I toured it with my daughter's 4th grade class. I've been to the old Capitol, toured that, but never been to this Capitol. And so I had my Pixel with me. So I was taking sphere pictures, and it was so cool. The kids loved being able to see those spheres after we got back. They're like, yeah, in the library, because the law library in our Capitol is freaking gorgeous. It is a really, really, really cool. And so I just quick did the sphere. Now, they also got a kick out of their teacher's head over here and her legs over here because she was moving because I forgot my theta. But it's a completely different experience from a VR Tour Creator tour and a Tour Builder tour.
Chad, have you turned it on?
I have not. So we're concentrating on other tools that just getting going with the one-to-one. Our focuses are a little bit different than having had an established one-to-one, obviously. So just the access to tech is limited right now, especially 3D cameras and such toys. So, but I do have a 3D camera of my own and have started to play with it by myself. So I see, with ISTE coming up, they have those. I bought the super package or the super registration or whatever that got me unlimited access to PD days, Saturday and Sunday, or PD events. And I signed up for all AR VR ones. So my Saturday afternoon and Sunday all day are going to be playing with AR VR stuff because I feel the implications in K-12 education are huge for those technologies. So definitely a cool tool, and I'm excited to show people how to use it here in my new district for sure.
Yeah.
So if you had to go out and buy a camera right now, a 360 camera, you mentioned the Theta. I personally have played with the old one. Would you say the Theta 5 or the Theta V, I guess? I don't know if it's the V or the 5 because it was the Theta S before.
I have an Insta360 not a 360.
Working. That took some wiggling, didn't it, to get it going?
It's because, well, the super fancy stuff. Like you can do live 3D Facebook and YouTube Live.
Right.
That works on iOS only, really. It's advertised to work on Android, but there's some glitches. I've been working with support, actually. I've been emailing back and forth just recently. They had a firmware update I just installed this week. So I haven't had a chance to try it out on my Android yet. They have a special USB-C to SATA holder for your phone that should be here tomorrow, at which point I will try out their new firmware the way it was meant to be tried out. So, but the picture quality and the video quality are pretty darn good on that one too.
Nice.
So the Insta 361, not 361, because it's one better. It's one better than the Theta 360. It's a 361.
Insta 360 is the name of the company. The camera's name is the word one.
So I have not looked at the 5 or Theta V, whatever, to give you a really good idea on that one. I know that when I bought mine, the 2 options were the Theta S and the Theta SC. And I know that I went with the Theta S because it provided me a little bit more functionality than the SC did, specifically some streaming options and some of those things. So this little guy here, single click, boop, and we're good to go. Really, really slick little tool. And then you combine that with Street View and Tour Creator, and you can do some really, really neat stuff. Something as simple as storytelling. You know, I had a great opportunity to go to a Geo Institute that EdTech team did, and we basically we retold fairy tales using 360 pictures that we took on our own, and so it was really, really kind of a cool exercise that I would have never thought of on my own had I not been able to steal that idea from some of the great guys that ran that class.
Yeah.
Next new thing that we got coming down, Gmail user interface. Is available in the EDU domain. I would strongly recommend you go in and turn that on as an option for your users. It's under the Gmail settings, the user settings, so that your users can go in and try it out. More specifically, whoever your leaders are, your tech leaders, your instructional folks, get them playing with it right away so they can ask questions, because there's a lot of difference there. I love the Keep integration, so I can have my Keep notes right on the side. That is really, really cool. There's a few things like I'm not sure the tasks versus it's not, what is it? You have tasks in there now that's not the same as to do, or there's a couple things in there I don't quite understand just yet. But it's definitely worth going in and turning on and start playing around with it, especially if people are going to start asking you questions, because over the summer it will be turned to the default and all of your users will freak out when they come back in the fall. You guys have it turned on?
Yeah, mine's all turned on. People were very excited. I turned it on for the whole district all at once, sent out an email, said, hey, this is how you turn it on. Here's how you turn it back off if you don't like it, but you can leave it on because it's going to be the default very soon. One of my annoyances is when you have the left sidebar collapsed where all your categories and inboxes and sent are in your open Hangouts. When you hit the hamburger menu and minimize that, the hover that re-expands that is very, very touchy. And it's right by the other button. Or let me see. Oh, the one I use a lot is the select all, unselect all. And hover just to the left of that, the God blessed menu pops out. And it annoys the crap out of me because then you have to go way back over here and then way back to my box that I wanted to click.
Because it overlaps when it pops out. It goes over the top. Yep.
It drives me absolutely bananas. So if there was one complaint, that would be it, because I love it otherwise. Absolutely would not go back. If they made me, I would go kicking and screaming.
Yeah, I'm with Carl. I'm just still trying to figure out some of the things. And I wonder, because currently the confidentiality is not turned on for education. Is that correct? And I get a blank stare.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's supposed to be in new Gmail a confidentiality, like you can, I don't know if it encrypts it, if it doesn't back it up. I haven't fully understood, but I just saw some posts on the GSFE admins community where they talked about that not being on yet as a functionality. Some of the replies are pretty intuitive, like the auto replies.
Those are awesome.
I was actually kind of amazed. It's like stuff will pop up, you read it, and they'll say, you know, like, oh yes, I'll do that, thank you. I'm like,
but I wanted to send on one click. I wanted to send on one click.
Yeah, if I click that thing.
Oh, you don't want it to have to hit send then.
Yeah. That's been on my phone forever, that functionality. And I was so glad to see it come in the new Gmail. That was awesome.
And if you didn't have an Android device, you didn't have that unless you played with Inbox.
Right.
That was an Android function, and you're right. And from my understanding is that it actually is supposed to get better the more you use it and the more you interact with it.
It absolutely does. I will attest to that. It's quite good.
The day it starts to put in the swear words in my emails, then I know it's listening.
I hope it isn't. Hey, we're up to 3 viewers now. If you do have any questions for us, go ahead again. The chat is open on the side, so ask any questions you've got. So, Carl, you were saying anything else new? So we talked about Creator. We talked about new Gmail.
The most recent thing is we finally have site migration tools for classic sites to new sites. Admins only. We have the migration tool. Yes, not the royal we. You have access as the admin. And when you go into sites and you look at your sites, if it's a site that can be converted, you'll have a little banner at the top that'll say, hey, do you want to see what this looks like in new sites? Or you can go to settings, manage site, and then it's in the bottom left and you can convert it. What I have found, though, is a majority of my sites are not convertible yet at this point. There are bits and pieces in there that will not convert one-to-one to the new sites. And if that is the case, you will not see this banner, nor will it show up under the settings. I've played around with a couple conversions on the ones that could convert. I'm not super jacked about it. Kind of disappointed in the conversion tools, and I'm not sure I expect to see it get a whole lot better. I think that we're going to end up with, this is what you get, and if you don't like it, you're welcome to rebuild your site to make it look pretty and work the way you're supposed to. One of our friends, Jess, she kind of even said that to folks. You're going to spend more time converting and tweaking a site than you would just rebuilding the content in a new site anyway. So we might just want to start teaching our users, this is how you build a new site. Something as simple as, I have a couple with some custom HTML that I did, and it's not even crazy custom HTML, but it won't convert it. It's not available to convert that site. So it kind of bums me out, but it's there. You can start playing around with it. I'm not sure how the timeline has altered. About a year ago at this time, they told us that these things would be much sooner than they were because we would have 1 year to convert everything, and then it's 1 year of view only. And so I'm not sure where we sit on that schedule, but it's definitely worth looking at to start seeing if you have sites that need to be converted, you need to do it. And schools that still use Google Sites as your main site, this might be a good opportunity to look into not relying on Google Sites for your school district's primary web interface, because I promise you the conversion will not work to any degree of success to convert something like an entire school district site to new sites. And then if you really want to get into it, we can talk ADA compatibility and whether Google Sites are really good on that anyway. But the conversion site migration is there. It's worth poking at. I just haven't been terribly successful with it yet.
Yeah, I think that Jessica was exactly right. That at some point in time, if it was just text on a page, simple conversion, it's going to have the new user interface look with the new sites. But anything customized, just go in and rebuild it. It's just one of those things. Just looking at time, I know you got one more thing on your list, Carl.
Skip it.
So
we can move right to Chad.
All right. So Chad, what do you got on your list?
I have a crazy dog running around here. She's you might get a dog head in the view here. Oh, now she's turning the TV on. Take that away from her. So part of having the new gig and going one-to-one in the fall with Chromebooks that are going to go off-site and things, we have to start considering filtering solutions, because they currently obviously only have to filter on-site, and they're just doing that through their firewall. Which works for now, but when they're going off-site, I'm trying to avoid proxying back and things like that. So with Chromebooks, your choices are a little bit limited currently. So I'm looking at three main ones, and they're the three main ones usually. Securely, we're looking hard at Securely. They have some interesting functionality with the parent portal piece, where parents can log in the after hours. They can set different filtering of their own if you turn that piece on and allow them to do that, which is interesting. They have a very good view into what their student is doing all day on that Chromebook, all day, every day, which lends itself to some other conversations with teaching staff not being quite sure they want the parent to know what they're doing during school time, things like that. So we're looking at Securely. A newer player, especially in that Chrome sort of cloud-based thing, is Lightspeed's Relay. We're also looking at them, and they have an interesting pricing structure because their pricing goes for the life of the device. So it's a little bit more upfront, but it's good for the life of the Chromebook. So it's much more like the admin council licensing, and could be attractive for especially people like us who are starting a one-to-one, and you can roll it into the budget for the initial push, right? So this is how much a Chromebook's going to cost with management and filtering. This is it. This is the price per unit for the life of that device. And then you don't have to budget every year for the filtering costs. So that's interesting to me, obviously.
I want to pause you 1 second. 1 second. How do they define life of the device? As long as you're using it?
Yes.
So if you have a 5-year rotation or 5-year refresh cycle, it's for that 5 years?
Correct.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. I mean, if you have to add additional devices or swap a device, you have to rebuy a license, actually, because they somehow tie it to a device by serial number. I mean, they give you a leeway period for DOAs and malfunctions and things like that. But after a certain point, if something dies, a motherboard dies or whatever, you'd have to buy a new license. So there's disadvantages, obviously, but advantages as well. So, and with all of these filtering choices, there are advantages and disadvantages, and you have to weigh all that with costs and what you're trying to achieve for your filtering and things like that. The third filter we're looking at, obviously, is GoGuardian. They sponsored our mobile podcasting kit. Thank you very much, GoGuardian. It's what I used at Spirit Lake. They have some very interesting capabilities as far as smart filtering goes, doing some screen reading and screen capturing things that worked, in my experience, very, very well. And we happen to have someone from GoGuardian with us tonight in Robert Reynolds. So I'm going to let him talk actually more about the GoGuardian new stuff coming down the pike. I had like a half-hour, 45-minute webinar, so I already know what you're going to say. So I'll keep you honest.
That's nice because he sat through half an hour of our podcast here before he even got to say boo. So it adds out, all equals out.
So I'll keep you honest, Robert. If you're saying something different than what I've heard, I'm going to call you out.
Did you go to the the webinar you're talking about? Was that last month?
Sorry, not webinar. One-on-one with a sales guy.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you got a demo of the product?
I did, yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. So I mean, we're talking a lot about smart filtering right now. We're really excited about it, and we have some new updates coming to it next month. And so just to give you a little background, because I like to talk, I'm a marketing guy, so I like to talk a lot about the problem and potential solutions to, the problems that are out there. And, one of the things that we're seeing right now, I think we've been seeing it for a while, but it's really starting to become a big issue, is that the internet is really kind of fundamentally growing super, super fast. So, if you think about the time that it took this podcast for us to go from start to finish, we're looking at 12,000 hours of video uploaded to YouTube and 2,400 or more websites being registered, millions and millions of Tumblr posts, and all sorts of contents being generated. And it's fundamentally different than it was in the past, where it was all the past. It was like a static page, and you could say, "Hey, this page has bad content. We're gonna block this URL." It was fairly easy to keep up back in the old days. But with this new content being generated, it's dynamic. You and I can go to a page. I can go to a Reddit page. You can go to a Reddit page and the home page, and we'll see totally different things depending on our settings. Pages can change. So if if you're on Twitter, things pop in and start, new content's generated without really even new page load. What we're seeing is that URL filtering, traditional URL filtering, it isn't really going to keep up anymore. It's not going to do it. I can see your thumbs down, and we kind of feel the same way. I mean, it's been a necessary technology, but when we're very user focused. We talk to users all the time, and one of the things we're hearing is that even if you have a database of hundreds of millions of URLs, what you're really saying is that you sort of know what the bad parts of the internet are, and you're able to block those off. But it doesn't really speak to the fact that some of those URLs may be legitimate websites. Some of them may be bad and then turn good, or good and turn bad. And so we're looking at new ways to deal with it. And one of the reasons why we talk to administrators, one of the things we found is that a lot of stuff is happening in things like Google Docs. So, we're kind of surprised by that. This isn't brand new. We've known this problem for a while, but we were like, what's happening in Google Docs? And so when we started looking at our own internal data, we started realizing that like nearly 20% of explicit activity that we're seeing is happening in legitimate websites that most administrators wouldn't want to turn off and wouldn't want to block via URL. So we've really we have smart filtering today, and the way it works is it's a little above it's a little above my technical expertise. And as a marketer, I'm really trying to learn how to communicate this to the customers and people and other people. But we're able to train. We have a machine learning system that what we do is we give it examples of things that we want to block or that we think are bad, and then we tell this machine learning to go off and figure out how to identify other examples of that. We throw lots and lots of data at it. We have lots of data. And so what we're able to do is, in combination with being able to see every piece of content in the browser. If you're on social media, it doesn't matter if you're, in Google Docs, it doesn't matter if you're in your email or doing Google searches, we can see the content on the page. And our machine learning is smart enough to know that when something goes from good to bad, we can actually start blocking at that point. So we do it in real time. It's continuously kind of scanning. It doesn't matter if the page is being reloaded or not. And so what we're doing right now is we're expanding the categories. Currently, we have self-harm and explicit, which have been trained and can spot without any URL blocking whatsoever. We can spot content as it emerges or it happens in the browser. And we're expanding that out to, we surveyed our customers and we asked them, what are the next few things that you really want us to tackle? Because we do have to train, it takes months to train these machines to start accurately identifying this kind of content. And so we're expanding out to things like VPN. What's that?
Stupid machines, I can see it right away. Kidding.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't want to create false positives or generate a bunch of noise for you guys. So we're expanding out to things like guns and the other distractions. VPNs came up really high on the response list from admins. They want us to figure out how to block VPNs because they pop up pretty quickly. And what we think is that, our sort of mission is not to wall off the internet. We fundamentally don't want to just wall off the internet to students. We think the internet is this beautiful place, and it's the next generation's way of communicating and learning and experiencing new things. And we want to make as much of it as accessible to students as possible. But we want to keep students away from stuff that can harm them. And so we're placing a lot of big bets on this new technology and being able to really, in real time at the page level, start spotting when things are starting to go wrong or maybe just starting to distract students and being able to block it at that point. Does that kind of give you guys an overview?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to me, I've thought for years that the URL blocking method was sort of asinine. I mean, like you said, new sites pop up every second. It is impossible to block everything. And besides that, like, we can't block Google Docs. And kids use that to communicate when they know they can't use Facebook. They do it to send explicit content back and forth when they know we're watching Hangouts and things like that, or turning Hangouts off. And we can't turn off that educational tool. So there's the content in there. So the quote unquote, air quotes, screen reading technology is the best way to filter things, in my opinion. And the data is there. You just have to write the screen scrubbing machine learning code to know what to look for.
Yeah.
And you guys are ahead of the game, in my opinion, in doing that. And kudos to your company. If you weren't the first, you were one of the first that started doing this. And I've been waiting a long time for this to happen and was so extremely excited. We've been a little bit of on the NDA side of what's going on with GoGuardian, with our relationship with you guys through the podcast. And, we knew it was coming before anyone else did when it first came out. And I was absolutely giddy. And now that you're starting to expand it, I am completely excited. I cannot wait to see what this is going to do, because what I've seen it do has been so absolutely powerful already. So keep going. This is good stuff.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. One of the things, some of the feedback we've gotten on smart filtering today is that, it is a little bit of a black box. So, things will be blocked today. And I had an admin at a conference the other day come up to me with this, laptop and basically said, "Why is this being blocked?" And it wasn't readily apparent. And, it was a long document, and it got to a point where we realized why it was being blocked, but it was like, hey, this thing made a decision. Why is it making a decision? So one of the other pieces that you're going to see from us as we expand these categories out is a way to do some simulations, so you can see really what the student is seeing from your own console. You can just pop in the URL, identify who the user is, and see what's going on there, and making it a little more apparent, why the machine learning has made those decisions. So we're super excited about it, and our filtering is important, and we know it's important, and we think this is great technology to handle that. But our end game is really to create better digital learning environments, and this technology can be used in that way too. So if you can imagine that, our technology can spot the difference. They can spot something new that's never been seen before, never been categorized by a URL solution. We can spot that and we can block it. The same is true of, we can spot when good things are happening, and we can give teachers better tools to say, this student is really interested in these topics. Here's some other topics that we're seeing that our machine learning believes are really valuable and could be a good additional resource. And so the idea is to really help. I mean, we're not there yet, and we're going to work very, very closely with teachers and, our partners in the schools to make sure that we get this right. But our goal is to really take it and turn it around too, and start providing more useful information about what's going on with students.
And you talk about the machine learning, and I laugh because as timely as anything else, something pops up, and we sit there and think, well, the human eye is, of course, definitely going to be better than machine. But was it this weekend? Publix down in South Carolina. It's a grocery store chain down the south. They someone ordered a cake for their son for graduation that said "Summa cum laude." And, yep.
I saw this.
The human sensor felt that that word was inappropriate because they didn't know what summa cum laude meant, and they assumed it was something to do with, you know, something else. So, you know, nothing is perfect. Absolutely nothing. And I love, one of the things I really like about you guys' application, I talk to people about this, is the warning that pops up. You know, the kids have that interaction warning where especially with the on admin 2, where they're going to a site that may be inappropriate. And the screen pops up and says, this may be inappropriate. Are you sure you want it? And it lets them make that decision. And then when they go, I get the warning on there that the kid did this. And then I have feedback with the kid on it. But they not only then have to close out that window, they have to then proceed to the site. And so they're making that decision. But I love what you just said about now not just using this as a filter, but as a tool for teachers, that here's something that kids are really learning and doing great stuff on, and it can report out on that too. And that's where machine learning can really be beneficial to education and understanding that as a teacher, I can't possibly know what every kid is doing all the time. And if they may be off on the side project or doing something else that is equally or relatively important and useful, I would love to know about that. Yeah,
we're excited about the potential of this thing. We think it's got legs, and we're putting, you know, a lot of people and a lot of our R&D is going hard on this, trying to make this as good as possible. So,
well, I can tell you, I mean, nothing is perfect, but I've been very, I think, impressed with you know, the explicit content and the self-harm content, and it's one of those things. I think the machine learning is doing a very good job. Is it perfect? Nope, but nothing is, and it's what I really like about it is it follows my belief that we don't say bad things don't exist and just kind of keep kids from even knowing they're out there. It's teaching them digital responsibility. This stuff is out there. You need to learn to navigate this world that you are going to live in, because I'm sorry, it's going to be there when you get out of here, rather than, you know, I spent 12 years in Catholic school, and when I got out in the real world, it was a little different than my smaller school. And I kind of, you know, first couple of years of college, by the grace of the good Lord himself, I didn't flunk out of school and end up, you know, in a ditch somewhere. So overprotection is not always a great thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, we get feedback. I'm fairly new to the company, so some of these things really surprise me, and probably wouldn't surprise you guys at all. But we get a lot of feedback that message, that notification message, when a student sees that, it's almost like just kind of a guardrail. Hey, you know, you bumped into a guardrail here, that they immediately get back on track. It's just like they just kind of know. And future browsing activity, actually, you know, we don't see the notifications coming up as frequently once they get that first one. It's kind of sort of reminds them gently that, you know, hey, we're watching. You signed.
Yeah, not all of them. Not all of them. There's still some who just think, it's worth it.
Yeah, and then there's the ones who
haven't called me to the office yet. If I just click through here, I can still go. The office referral, when the secretary comes over the loudspeaker and says, "Could John Smith please report to the guidance counselor's office?"
You know, when I was in college, I'd balance my checkbook, but every now and then I'd realize I don't have enough to buy this pizza, and this pizza is going to cost me an extra $15, but the bank's going to cover it, and I know I'm getting paid tomorrow, but I really want that pizza. So I would knowingly do that, where you would.
That's called operating on float.
Yeah, I did.
It was. The bank didn't care. The bank made money on me.
What is this checkbook thing you speak of?
I went to college back in the old days with the abacus and the checkbook.
Yeah. That's funny. What else is coming new, Robert? I don't want to make light of the machine learning, because that is awesome and you're expanding that. But, you know, we have about 10 minutes left. So I think there's a couple other things here in the show notes that you were going to touch base on. And I think the next one, if you go in order, I would like to speak to after what you say.
Sure. So, you know, we talked about the smart alerts today having self-harm and explicit. Self-harm has been really, really successful in a lot of ways. We're catching stuff that is actually heartbreaking, that you would never
Oh, I think we lost Robert. He froze. Oh, now he's back. You were frozen for a bit there, Robert.
Oh, yeah, I think I did see it freeze actually earlier. But anyways, we're catching stuff with the self-harm alerts that a lot of it, and we're catching it really accurately, and it's heartbreaking. We wouldn't see the effectiveness with the pure keyword-based solution. But at the same time, what we're hearing from administrators and schools and counselors is that this is really like, if you're gonna do this, you need to have really a full solution that fits into our, so like, for example, our suicide prevention program. Sending an alert in just a standard way through an admin product isn't really enough necessarily for us. We want something that's more robust. And so we spent about a year, we talked to a ton of people in schools, school mental health professionals. We worked very, very closely with the AFSP, which is American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the American Association of Suicidology. And we just spent like a year learning and trying to understand, what do people need here, and how do we maybe take this technology and solve it in a better way. And so we have actually a new solution coming out. We're calling it Beacon. And we're really excited about it because what we're able to do is pair this really powerful technology, which it's serving as a counselor's second set of eyes, and it can surface these students who are maybe in trouble, who can't ask for help for one reason or another. And it has a really robust, really well-built and well sort of considered escalation chain where we can get the student help through a list of people that can help support, including parents and including other community resources. So you can kind of set it up any way you want to make sure that you're continually pinging people, even after hours or during school hours. You can set it up any way you want to. But what we're going to do is basically try to really change the game here and put out a solution that's going to start helping and identifying students that are having problems and that are at risk. So we're excited about that. That's coming in. That's going to be coming before the next school year. And we're still talking to a lot of people. We're still trying to, we're still listening. You're going to see it evolve over time. But it's something. It's actually one of the reasons why I joined the company in January, because I love the mission. Of really keeping students safe in this way, and really going down sort of that mental health route where we're actively trying to, or proactively trying to, help counselors with students.
I love the self-harm feature, and one thing that we've talked about on this podcast before with it is, if you are going to put this in place in your district, I'm not talking with GoGuardian is going to, is you better have in place your plan, your plan of action, that when you get a hold of this information, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Because you are going to find things that literally should scare the crud out of you. And it's not something to take lightly. You better have a plan of action. You better know, what is this information? Where is it going to go? And how are you going to deal with it? Because like you said, you will find heartbreaking stuff that but it's out there, and I'd rather be dealing with it than ignoring it.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's good stuff. There's some troubled kids out there, like it or not, and anything that can help us help them is worth its weight in gold.
And the ability for us to be able to get that information to the right people is really the key to make all of that successful, right? I mean, it shouldn't be the tech director who is the keeper of that information. So being able to ferry that information off to professionals is really, really, really important, because it's not something that the tech directors or Google admin folks should be saddled with. It's not the right word, but given, because that's not what we were trained to deal with. I don't have the tools and resources to help a student work through that sort of thing. So being able to automatically get the right information to the right people at the right time, that's the key. That's the big key.
Yeah. we heard that loud, and we really heard that loud and clear from admins, which is why we've separated it out as a separate product. And the other thing we heard from counselors, even we kind of heard similar thing from counselors. You know, with a national average of 500 students to one counselor. I mean, every school is different, but that's the national average. What we heard from counselors is they want a system that they can also bring in other people to help with the solution, and even help the student directly. So notify the student, hey, if you're feeling this way right now, here's a list of resources that can help you, and then also start notifying parents and other people. So yeah, it's not something that you can just you can treat lightly or not have a really robust sort of plan in place. And so our goal is to really support your programs that you have in place today.
Wow, that is awesome. I think that is again, it's a filter. I think that's one of the great things is it should strain out and catch what you want it to strain out and catch, and that is one of those things.
Cool. The other piece, one last thing, we've got window support, so we're very excited about that. And
Windows is fine and great and all, but
I think you kind of buried that one, but it's true. There's still a lot of people on Windows machines, and having the ability to, it's not just a Chrome service now. You're servicing, those people who may not understand and still use Windows.
But so even a lot of schools that have gone one-to-one with Chromebooks still give the littles, a lot of cases. Lance and I are in that boat. Carl, I can't remember, still give kiddos iPads. So when's iOS filtering coming, Robert?
Oh, I can't commit to that without getting at the office. So
thought we were going to get the scoop
on it.
Now, if you come out next Monday and say it's out for iOS, I'm going to be PO'd because that's exactly what Cyrus did to us.
Oh, you have every right to be mad about that.
Give us the scoop on the Chrome tab. Now, if we don't get the scoop on this, I'm going to be hurt.
So, in all seriousness, I mean, GoGuardian has been super responsive to feedback, especially from this group of yahoos. For whatever reason, they ask us questions and then they listen to what we say. I mean, we've had a few different meetings with your development team, just asking for feedback on different things. So they haven't asked us back in a while, so maybe I said something wrong the last time. But I mean, iOS filtering and OS X filtering would be great to go along with that Windows capability. Not that we send iPads off-site or anything, but I would much rather filter things through your awesome product than relying on my firewall, which is really busy doing what a firewall is supposed to do, which is not necessarily filter out web traffic. It's busy doing other things. I have a very good firewall here, but its main purpose is not doing what you do. And it obviously doesn't have the advanced functionality of screen reading and the artificial intelligence, the machine learning with the self-harm and explicit content that your wonderful product has. So if you want to talk to that development team, they have my email. They might probably have my old one, though.
Yeah, maybe they have been emailing you. Maybe they've been trying to get a hold of you. They're like, Chad, you won't reply.
Shoot, maybe that's the problem.
That's got to be it.
That must be it. Must be it. So that they, if you can get them on that project, we would appreciate it. In my world,
that would be great. Yeah,
cool.
One less box I'd have on my server rack. So, anyway, Robert, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you. Thank you, GoGuardian, for being a wonderful support of this podcast. It's a pet project of ours. We like to think that we help people out there, that we actually provide some sort of usefulness to others rather than just getting to get together once a month and chat. But thanks for everything.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. Now, we are up against our time limit. We don't really have a time limit, but it's our self-imposed time limit. But I do want to talk about a couple of things. ISTE is coming up. I will be over in Chicago on June 22nd, have the affiliates meeting on the 23rd, but on the 24th, I do have a session at ISTE. It is Best Practices in Google for Education Account Security. That's at 10 o'clock. I don't know what room yet, but I'm there. But then at 12:30 to 3:30, there's a workshop with Carl and I.
Hey!
Yeah, selecting and managing Chromebooks in an educational setting. He's going to the cooler workshop.
Cool workshops, AR and VR for this guy.
We're gonna be using VR to manage and choose your Chromebooks.
Oh.
We're gonna go like this. We're gonna put on a headset and be like that one, that one, that. Yeah. We are hoping to be able to have a podcast in the Google booth again this year. I've contacted Google, has submitted a session as a certified trainer. So Googles, if you're listening, we would love to be selected to do that. If not, maybe we could work something out with GoGuardian about being in their booth. I don't know.
Ooh, there you go.
So we'll have our opportunities. I would love to see GSFE admins get together somehow at ISTE, if it's during the day, just meeting somewhere that and getting together. So if someone wants to propose that in the community, let's do that. Taking the summer off, guys. I don't know. We might have one more before ISTE or just at ISTE. We'll have to wait and see. We'll make the announcement. So summer's coming up. Anything else?
What if we did the get together before one of the keynotes in like the Social Butterfly Lounge or the Bloggers Cafe or something? That might be an option. Anyway, I'll think through that, see what we can make happen. I don't like watching the keynotes in the keynote hall anyway.
It gets awful crowded unless you get that reserved seating.
And it's easier to escape if the keynote is bad, like Ashley Judd. I mean, no.
I love keynotes.
Chad hates keynotes. No. All righty. Well, if there's nothing else, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you all some other time, and hopefully at ISTE. So take care, everybody, and have a great night. Goodbye.
Bye.